Does the specter of a dark secret still linger in this stately former mansion?
Who or what roams what is now the restaurant's third floor?
Could a jealous ghost pose danger to engaged guests?
Find out the answers to these questions and more as we uncover the secretive hauntings and history from Forepaugh's restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
And this is The Haunted Atlas, a haunted U.S. podcast. In the interest of fully exploring history of certain locations, The Haunted Atlas may discuss sensitive or disturbing topics. Listener discretion is advised.
In a quiet corner of St. Paul, a grand old mansion rises above the street like a relic from another era. Its stone walls and tall windows hinting at wealth, ambition, and the kind of secrets that never truly stay buried. What began as a dream home has seen numerous iterations throughout its history. And according to countless reports, it's a place where history still walks the halls. Forepaugh's restaurant begins with the story of Joseph Forepaugh, the namesake, who arrived in Minnesota in 1858. Fun fact, he was actually originally from Pennsylvania.
Ah, that's exciting.
Yes, but he wanted to grow a business of his own in dry goods. In other words, selling everyday household supplies and textiles.
That's a very specific aspiration to have.
Yes, well, in Pennsylvania, he was an apprentice to a dry goods seller. And so that's kind of how he got started in this area of business.
That makes sense. You probably don't want to be in direct competition with the person for which you were an apprentice.
Yeah, exactly. And he figured that moving out west would actually help him start this dream. Now, his dry goods distribution center business was started in the Twin Cities area, and it grew to one of the largest businesses in the Midwest.
That's very surprising. Was it named Forepaugh's?
In the beginning, I think it was more of like a small company, so there wasn't really an official name, but later, once it became bigger, it was renamed to J.L. Forepaugh and Company.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of these giant companies we've heard of, but maybe I'm thinking too large scale, like things like Macy's.
Yes, no, I agree. It's kind of interesting, and especially because, Macy's is in the business of, clothes and things that I guess this is household supplies, but it just feels like dry goods are not something that, we really have stores for at this time.
That's actually a good point. I guess we have, hardware stores, but it's not hardware. So I guess it's been phased out.
Yeah. Now you can imagine from this endeavor, Joseph became very wealthy. But it wasn't until 1870 that he began working on his family home in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he started this with a $10,000 investment, which in today's money would be $247,000.
Wow. That doesn't seem like a ton of money for someone that was this wealthy.
Yeah, so here's the thing. To us, $247,000 kind of sounds normal. Honestly, cheap for a house. But you have to think about it in terms of not only has money increased with inflation, but also the price of housing percentage-wise. And so to put it into perspective, I reviewed a few sources, and it seems like the cost of an average home in a rural area in 1870 could be under $1,000, possibly going up to $2,500.
Wow, so this is 4 to 10 times the amount of the average home. So that does really put it into perspective. This is huge.
Yeah. Because when I saw that too, I remember seeing $247,000 and being like, okay. That's
right. That's not chump change, but for a house.
But for a house, exactly. And so starter home wasn't exactly in his vocabulary. He was building the home flat out with his growing family in mind. He planned to remain in the area for a while and continuously grew and maintained his business. Now, it wasn't until the late 1880s that he decided to retire. And according to Forepaugh's website, Joseph and his family ended up going to Paris for a year, and they sold most of their belongings because they didn't want to worry about storage.
That feels like such a super wealthy person thing to do. Like,
Yes.
I just want to get rid of it. I don't want to have to worry about it.
Yeah. I'm like, I literally hoard everything in my house.
I'm just too attached to items, but maybe if I knew I was moving to Paris for 2 years, I would feel differently.
That's fair. And honestly, going abroad, you know, I've only moved from like one town in my car to the next. So maybe if like flights are involved, I know it costs a lot of money to ship things. So maybe,
Yeah, you have to decide what you really want.
yeah, they just were like, you know what, we'll just sell everything.
Well, and especially back then, because this is the 1800s.
Yes, late 1800s.
So the cost to move stuff across an ocean was probably astronomical.
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't even flights.
Yeah. First transatlantic flight. 1919.
All right, yeah, there we are. Okay. So in 1886, Joseph sold his family home to General John Henry Hammond, who was a decorated veteran of the Civil War. General Hammond remained in Minnesota until his death in 1890, and while he did his best to upkeep the property, the home and where Joseph had originally built it in the neighborhood actually kind of went out of style at this time.
I was wondering that if he was only able to afford the home because he was a decorated veteran, because this is an expensive home.
That's actually a very fair point. And I mean, I don't even know like when he moved in, if it was still kind of affluent, but by the time that he passed, all of the wealthy families had basically at this point moved out of the area because there were advancing transportation methods of the times. So like streetcars and public transportation. And so other parts of the city became way more accessible.
That's kind of sad though. It's like this beautiful home that just is in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I know, because I can't even imagine how lavish it was.
Right.
Now, at this time, just as a side note, Joseph and his family returned to the same area, but they bought a house in one of the more desirable parts of the city, which I thought was so interesting.
That is really interesting. I guess you might as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to want to be close to society, which was more important, I think, at that time.
Right.
In the early 1900s, it was converted to a boarding house, and it remained a boarding house for most of the 1900s. So I didn't have a ton of history around this time period. It sounds like the building kind of fell into more and more disrepair, and then by 1973, the local housing authority ordered that the boarding house be shut down.
What a beautiful boarding house to live in.
Yeah. And for 73 years.
Yeah, that's
going.
a very long time.
Honestly, it's crazy to think about where humankind was in the 1900s versus where they were in 1970.
Well, and were boarding houses even common in the 1970s? I don't think as common.
That's a really good question. I don't think so either.
So that might have been part of it. If they were getting a decrease, if they were having a decrease in customers and therefore a decrease in revenue, then it could have fallen into disrepair easily.
I think I'm thinking about this in just like you know how the 1970s are like hippies and everybody's kind of like chilling out on couches and stuff. It makes sense to me. I don't know how accurate that was. I was born in 97. I have no idea what the 70s were like.
I told someone the other day that you don't know what a disposable camera is.
Well, I do now.
Ooh.
Never used one though, except until you got me one, and then I did.
Yeah, but so we really are not experts on the 1970s.
No, not at all. What's interesting is I think we hear a lot of situations like this where the building then sits for a long period of time, which is always sad. It's sad to think of a building just kind of being abandoned, especially with one with so much history. But for this particular one, it was only 2 years later, 1975, that it was bought and converted into a restaurant.
Do we know how much it was sold for?
I don't.
That's something that's always interesting to me when we do hear about these buildings that sit for so long. Because I'm always like, why wouldn't someone buy it? But then if you think about it, even if it was the exact same price, like $247,000, who just has that around to buy a Victorian mansion that's in disrepair?
Yes. And usually because of the areas they're in, I think. It's kind of like it's so far removed from society that if you do have that money, you're probably going to try to choose something like closer.
Right.
The restaurant opened in 1976. It was then open as a restaurant until 2019, until it closed because of the pandemic, because of COVID, according to their website. And then it reopened in 2024 after renovations.
That's really cool to have so much history there while you're dining there.
Yeah, I agree. It must be such a cool environment to like look around in while you're eating.
Yeah, and have they kept at least the exterior mostly the same?
Mostly the same. Yes, it's a beautiful building. It's 3 stories. The columns are gorgeous. But no matter how many times this building has changed hands, or how many times it was repurposed, its walls never truly let go of the past. Because long before Forepaugh's became a restaurant, this house had already witnessed betrayal, scandal, and tragedy. And according to many, that's exactly where the hauntings begin.
Hey guys, I'm Tommy from Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast, where we talk to real people and have real conversations about paranormal experiences, including ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and all high strangeness, and even a little bit of conspiracy too. So if you enjoy these freaky conversations, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're also available to watch on YouTube. Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky.
While this was a family home, it did hold dark secrets. Those secrets seem to have contributed to the hauntings. The first haunting involves a major secret of the family. The story goes that Molly, a servant in the house, and Joseph were having an affair.
Oh no.
Once the family found out, they of course fired Molly.
Right.
And I don't know what the other solution would be. You can't fire Joseph. I guess you could get divorced, but you know.
Right, but then where would she go? We're living in a time where you're kind of dependent on your husband.
Right. And Molly was so distraught that she had lost her job, she had been caught, her name was tarnished, that she ran upstairs and hung herself in front of the window.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
And this wasn't a random choice, because Molly wanted it to be in front of an upper floor window so that all of society could see what Joseph had done.
Oh my gosh. So this is like at a time where all of the wealthy individuals are still there, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, and to do that in such a public way is such a scandal. Not only is this a wealthy family, a huge businessman that has tons of businesses, but this is very in your face.
Yes, and I wonder if at the time Molly knew that society would know what had happened, or if she thought maybe no one would really know what would happen and that would make the rumors worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the speculation is almost as bad as the secret.
Yeah.
It could be that case. Either way, it would get attention.
Yes.
And because she was so distraught and died in such a tragic way, it's no surprise that she's known to haunt the home. She's seen as a full-body apparition to many, but specifically, she's seen by new brides. She's even been captured in wedding photos here.
Oh my gosh, that is so scary and cool at the same time, like to see a apparition, but if you know what the haunting is, that's a little sad and scary.
Well, and that's where I wanted to get your opinion on this, because there are multiple theories. Some theorize that she's living vicariously through the brides, getting the happy ending that she never had. And some people think that she is reliving her role as someone outside the marriage. Maybe she feels shame for the affair, so she's kind of an outsider looking in. What do you think?
I wonder why she is in the house. Sometimes, we've questioned whether people get to choose where they spend their afterlife, whether trauma brings them back. And I think if she's back because the trauma has kept her here, it might be the second one. That's a lot of negative feelings and a lot of grief that she's kind of reliving every day. But I'm hoping it's the first one.
I know, the first one is so much sweeter, and I couldn't really find anywhere where her face is incredibly clear, where you can make out her expression.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to gather if she is happy or sad or just kind of stone-faced. It could even be her just in the photos as a reminder of what happened there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you guys might be happy, but don't forget there was this scandal, because she did die in such a public way with the intention to make herself seen. So I think making herself seen in these photos could be along the same lines.
It also could be a case where maybe she's just confused about why there are so many people, because if this, this was a private residence while she was there, and so likely there were not many people at the top floor. So I'm wondering if just because like there's a lot of people that she's kind of drawn to these photos.
And if we're going down that train of thought, she was a servant there. So she could be like, oh, there's a wedding, there's a banquet, there's a dinner, I need to be working.
Right.
So I guess there are many, many reasons she could be showing up.
Yeah.
Molly does interact with the living world other than just appearing as an apparition, so it goes a bit further. It's said that the tables closest to the window where she took her life often have their table settings messed up. And this is pretty significant things like glasses turned upside down or even the settings themselves moved over or knocked off the table.
Wow, knocked off the table.
To me, thinking of the fact that she is disrupting, that makes me think either one, she's shameful and upset, or two, she wants to make her presence known. I don't think that if you are living vicariously through the brides, you would be messing up the table setting.
I can't tell if she's moving the stuff because she's trying to recreate, like if it's a residual haunting possibly, like she's moving the stuff off the table so she can stand on the table.
Oh, wow. I didn't even consider that. That is sad, but could be true.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like, but then again, it could also be a very conscious thing of, I don't want anything in this space.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking, is like, you will not forget about me type of thing. Because specifically the glasses being turned upside down is such a fine movement, you know? Interestingly, Joseph is also said to haunt the location. He's often seen throughout the restaurant and on the basement steps. When he is seen, he's seen as an apparition in dark clothing, and people say that a shuffling noise is typically associated with him, and that sometimes he'll turn the lights on and off. So I have many, many thoughts about this. First, the lights, I would say, could be faulty wiring, but if it's a restaurant, they would have fixed that.
Right.
And shuffling is a very specific noise.
Yes.
So I think that could be attributed to paranormal if it's not happening all the time. But second, and more importantly, I cannot imagine such a terrible afterlife of being stuck with the person you had an affair with after it had a terrible ending.
Yeah, and clearly this home has significance for him because he returned from Paris and lived somewhere else. I'm wondering if he also didn't choose.
Yeah.
Maybe ended up back here just because this is where everything happened.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, is it was a place of such scandal and negativity. You're stuck there, and this is completely outlandish, but it almost feels to me like there is a part of Molly that could be like, well, if I'm stuck here, you're stuck here. Like,
yes,
you will have to pay for what you did. Additionally, visitors report hearing disembodied voices even when they're alone, but they're said that it's only a whisper.
Oh.
So, yeah, they're only hearing very quiet voices. But the whisper makes me wonder if there is some residual haunting from the affair. Like if Joseph and Molly are whispering to each other.
Well, that's a really good thought. I did not think of that.
Yeah. Maybe we have it all wrong. Maybe Molly and Joseph are happy to finally be together in their afterlife.
The other thing I was thinking is because there were servants there, I wonder if it does happen after hours, if it's like servants whispering back and forth.
Oh, that's true. The other thing I was thinking with the whispers is it could be reflective of the town gossip, of like people whispering about the Forepaughs.
Yes, yeah.
The cold spots, I would be skeptical about because it is an old building, but given that it was and is a restaurant, I would say that if there were regular cold spots, they would have fixed that.
I would think, yeah. And it also depends on where they're happening because I don't know how much like renovations they did, if they like fixed up the windows. I don't know specifically, but whenever you're near a window, even if the building is well heated, if the windows aren't insulated, then there could be cold spots there.
That's a good point, actually, unless you have like very high-end windows. So if they're older windows, it definitely could be kind of leaching cold in. But then why would the table right by where Molly perished not be cold unless they replaced that specific window?
That's true.
Because it is a large window.
I don't know that we've ever heard of spirits like warming up an area, but is that a thing?
Yeah, in some cases, but I think when people think of temperature fluctuations with spirits, they more often think of cold. And so
Yeah.
I think people are likely more aware of that. And I think with cold, it's more of like a sharp sensation.
Oh.
So it could be something like that. Obviously, there are cases where spirits have perished in fires and they create a very warm sensation. But I think it might just be easier to note the cold.
Right. That makes sense.
Any final thoughts about Forepaugh's restaurant?
I think this was just such an interesting story. The history there from the family and the secrets there and them lending themselves to the hauntings. I also think it's really cool that people are still experiencing things in a restaurant because, as we've said, it's hard to when you're surrounded by that many people.
It's always interesting to me when these beautiful old homes have such like a rotten, for lack of a better word, interior and history when it comes to things like this, because it's like picture perfect from the outside, but there's all this tragedy. And I guess that was Molly's point. Like, everything might look beautiful and fine, but here is reality.
Right.
If you visited Forepaugh's restaurant, we would love to hear from you. You can email the team at hauntedus.com and include Haunted Atlas, Forepaugh's restaurant, in the subject, or find us on social media at hauntedus. Tune in to our next episode to see where we drop the pin on our adventure across the haunted US. This episode of Haunted Atlas was presented and researched by Sarah Sweeney and Erica Barrett, supported by research from Haunted US head writer Mitch Goff, with production assistance by David Sweeney and music by Colleen Johnson. Our executive producer is Brandon Rugsey. Haunted Atlas is a production of Haunted US. Visit hauntedus.com for more information.